Hey everyone. All right, this will be the first lecture where I'm not wearing my yellow shirt. I had to wash it. I was recording over like 3 days and I was like, I need to wash this shirt. And so now I'm wearing a red sarong. So here we go to change and impermanence. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the breath work, and how our breath affects our life. So we had this saying in one of my bodywork courses. A guy named Gwyn Williams, this beautiful man, used to say the software affects the hardware, and our hardware affects our software. So hardware and software in this metaphor, or I guess in this saying, are referring to the two worlds that we've been speaking about, the Newtonian world and the quantum world. Or another way to say that is the seen world and the unseen world, or the material world and the energetic world. So our software is the energetic world. It's our emotions, it's our thoughts, it's all of the things that we don't see. It's our breath. We don't see our breath. It's our speech. We don't see our speech. But if we start to notice how intertwined these two worlds are, when I say something to you that isn't very nice in a really dark energy, if I'm like, fuck you and all these things, you'll start to see that it'll affect your world. You'll start to see your heart will start beating faster, which is in the seen world. And your blood will move quicker around your body and your breath will start moving. So we start to see the interaction between these two worlds, that the seen and the unseen world are always dancing, and we're interacting with both at any time. And what's amazing is we say like the idea of a shaman, or like the shamanic world. The shamanic world is the unseen world. And a shaman, or somebody who bridges the two worlds, has one foot in each world, is able to see the connection and the intertwining of both worlds. And in many ways, we all have this ability. I mean, that's not true. We all have this ability. But in many ways, we're already doing this. We start to see shamanic processes are anything that brings something from the unseen world into the material world, which is so many of our processes. Before I can build a chair, I have to think about how I want to design it. And in my imagination, it's still in the unseen world. And then I talk to people about it, still in the unseen world. And then we draw it, so it's starting to come into the world that we can see. And then we actually create it, and it becomes in the material world in a full life chair. And so these processes happen all of the time. We start to see how our emotions affect our behavior. And our behavior affects our bodies, affects things around us. My emotions are the impetus, sometimes, are in the motivation for me to get up and actually move something in the material world. So we see that even though my intention alone may not be able to move something in the material world, what happens is my intention moves something in my body, which gets up and moves something in the material world, and gets up and has action into the Newtonian world. So what does our breath have to do with all of this? We start to see that our breath is almost like this very subtle gateway, like a bridge as well between the two worlds. That we can see that our breath is almost like the joystick in the unseen world to affect the seen world. And when I say that, I mean our breath lies within our software, but it affects our hardware. And breath work, or pranayama, breath work essentially, in tantric yoga practices in the world of yoga, and there are many other, in almost every religion there's a form of breath work, and working with the breath and controlling the breath in order to influence different parts of our life and our nervous system. So we have two aspects of the nervous system that we're going to speak about. So we have the autonomic nervous system, and we have the somatic nervous system. The somatic nervous system controls our somatic movements, our muscles, and our movement in the body. And that's a conscious idea. That's a conscious interaction with our body. And then we have the autonomic nervous system, and this regulates our heartbeat, our organs, our glands, all the processes that we don't consciously necessarily control, but are just kind of working in the background. So our autonomic nervous system is controlling a lot of our hardware in the body so that we can do other things. So we can move with our somatic nervous system. Within the autonomic nervous system, we have two parts. We have the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight. It's when we see a lion, it's all of the processes that happen to get us out of that situation and into a safe place. When we're in the parasympathetic nervous system, para is like it helps us to relax. So parasympathetic is our rest and digest and restore nervous system. It's our nervous system that it's the aspect of our nervous system where the set of processes that occur when we are calm and regenerating. So there are values to both systems. There's different times and places that each of these aspects of the autonomic nervous system are valuable and important. When we're in danger, sympathetic nervous system, get out of there. Once you get to a safe place, you want to start kicking on your parasympathetic nervous system. Now, for most mammals, including us, we don't have control over when one switch is on or when the other switch is on. Our perception, our filter, senses danger, and then the sympathetic nervous system kicks on, and we want to get out of there. That's anxiety, fear, panic, all of these things. Fight or flight. It's also aggression and anger. They happen automatically. And we don't usually have control over when the parasympathetic nervous system kicks on. But it's when we're in a safe space and our nervous system can basically relax and go to sleep and trust that it is safe. So for a very long time, and for many of us even still today, when we don't have a relationship with our body and with the breath and with our inner world, we are subject to the environment basically turning on and off these different systems. When we've had a traumatic experience in our life, these systems or our perception of reality might influence which system is activated. So for example, if I grew up in a very dangerous place, then my sympathetic fight or flight nervous system will be more active most of the time. If I was raised and grew up in a place where I always had to be careful and hide because I might be in danger, then that's basically programmed into my nervous system that the world is a dangerous place. And if this deep-rooted belief is so ingrained in my core, then most of my life, my sympathetic nervous system will be activated. Now, what that means, it's not that the sympathetic nervous system is a bad thing. It's just that it uses different resources and doesn't allow my body to regenerate as easily. My fight or flight nervous system is more concerned about getting me safe. But the truth is that if I'm in a place where I am safe, but I'm perceiving that I might be in danger, then there's no difference. There's no difference in your body's response to danger if you're actually in danger or if you're perceiving that you're in danger. There's no difference in your body's response to if I see a lion or if I have a really big exam tomorrow that I really want to do well on and I'm really anxious or I'm really scared I'm going to fail. My body's response is the same. So we can start to see that our environment doesn't always match our body's response to the environment, which is why it's so important to be able to guide our perception in a way that it is actually receiving the reality, the true reality of each situation, so that we're not constantly wasting our resources on trying to stay alive in survival mode when that's actually not necessarily pertaining to what's happening right now. Because the issue is that when we are in fight or flight mode, we are exhausting resources to survival parts of the brain, of the body, and we're not able to develop the higher functioning and the newer progressive parts of our brain. We're not able to heal the body when we're always trying to guard. It's almost like if you're outside protecting your house, you don't have time to go in and fix the windows that were broken last year. And when that's the case, and I'm always outside guarding, the windows are actually getting worse. They're falling off and the paint is chipping, and I actually don't have time to even go look around the house to see what I need to fix because I'm so busy trying to make it safe. So that's the idea there, is that we have these two nervous systems, and if we don't learn how to regulate them ourselves, then we're subject to the environment or our perception, which has been ingrained in us through our own experiences and through the environment, to choose how our body is using its resources. And so for a long time, even through Western science, we believed as a society that we have no control over these automatic processes in our bodies. I don't have control over my heart. It just beats on its own and it kind of does its own thing. But in traditional practices, they call them, I love this idea of ancient technologies. Breathwork is an ancient technology that was developed through many different traditions and philosophies, that we actually have the ability to influence our body's response to the external world. So we can train our body, even when it's under stress, to not respond in a stressful way. We can receive the environment, even if it is a dangerous place or that there might be danger. I can continue utilizing my parasympathetic, my rest and digest nervous system. And the value of that is that when I'm in my more calm nervous system, my mind has more spaciousness to be creative and to think of alternative solutions, rather than when I'm in my sympathetic nervous system, my mind narrows. So when I'm nervous for the test, I'm like, I don't know what to do. The more anxiety that comes up, the more sympathetic nervous system that comes up, the more my mind narrows and I can only see one little hallway of one black or white option. So the idea is the more time we can spend in our parasympathetic nervous system, the more open we are, the more spaciousness we have, and the more rational logic we can use, which is so valuable to be able to actually come up with a creative solution to whatever we're doing, and to be able to navigate reality, not from a place of I need to survive, but actually I want to fulfill myself and others. So how do we do this? What are the two different types of breath work, and why would we use each one? So we have these two categories of breath work. One is up-regulating breath work, and one is down-regulating breath work. Up-regulating breath work is anything that actually kicks in the sympathetic nervous system. So after all this conversation, why would I want to activate my sympathetic nervous system? If it's like, wow, parasympathetic nervous system is the way to be, it's a great way to think creatively. Well, what's interesting is when we experience trauma in our life, it's almost like, imagine the sympathetic nervous system as like a room where memories are stored. And when our sympathetic nervous system is active, we have access to those memories. Now, if I'm in a dangerous place and my sympathetic nervous system is activated, then I don't have time to process past traumas. I'm trying to process this trauma and get out. But what happens is if I'm in a safe container, whether it's in a course with a professional, with a teacher, or if I'm experiencing my own breath work and my observation and my meditation practice, then I can actually practice turning on my sympathetic nervous system in order to bring up memories of past trauma, or even just past trauma experiences in the body, and then I can actually release them, almost like cleaning out the house. So that's why we would use up-regulating breath work. It's actually to cultivate the movement of energy around the body, almost as if we had a kink in the hose. We kind of like move it around, and then it can get the kink out. So if we have certain blockages in different places, or if something is closed, or we feel a lot of tension or buildup in a certain place, up-regulating breath work can be a wonderful kind of shake to the house to move things around, and then we can contain it in a safe environment. So up-regulating breath work is anything that speeds the breath in order to move energy in the body, to create heat and wind in the body to move things around. And then we can let go of them, we can release them, or we have the opportunity to release them. So up-regulating breath work is anything that creates a quick breath. So a few options of that would be, for example, Kapalbhati, it's the breath of fire. And so when you sit up and with your lower belly, you push air out. So you push out your nose at a very quick speed. And you'll notice that as you start doing this, I even already felt a wave of heat rising up my body. You start to feel a lot of heat in the lower belly, in the chest, in the head. The heat will rise almost like someone lit a little fire in your belly. This is great for the morning time to start generating heat in the body to kind of melt away or purify any old dreams in the evening, old energy from the day before, and a kind of like this sleepiness and lethargy that we get when we're sleeping. So that's a great example of a practice that we can do. Another practice is up-regulating breath work is similar to the Wim Hof method. It's called shamanic breath work or holotropic breathing. And it's basically you breathe in fully and you exhale 50%. So you breathe in, so again, powerful practice to start activating the sympathetic nervous system and move a lot of wind and breath and energy in the body. This activates the sympathetic nervous system very powerfully, and you'll start to feel very interesting and bizarre. I'm like already like, well, give me a second. Interesting and bizarre sensations because we are actually activating our sympathetic nervous system in a controlled environment. So we're actually being able to observe the blood moving away from the hands and the limbs and the blood coming back to the vital organs to protect those spaces. We're feeling all of these very interesting and very magnificent sensations, and we're able to observe those. That's upregulating breathwork. So upregulating breathwork is more of a medicine that you would use for very specific times. So if you are very intentional and know why you're using upregulating breathwork, it's a wonderful practice. It's not an everyday practice. It's like a once every few weeks or at certain times of the day for very intentional reasons. The breath work that we use most of the time that you're going to hear and see in most yoga practices and most kind of modern day spirituality is down-regulating breath work. And that's anything that calms the sympathetic nervous system to bring about the rest and digest nervous system. So this is great to do pretty much any time. You can't really overdose on calming the body. It's always going to be great. Obviously, if you've been home for 6 weeks, you haven't left the house, and you're feeling very, very depressed, this probably wouldn't be the practice because it brings it even down more. But in any other time, unless you're incredibly depressed or incredibly heavy or incredibly stuck, this is going to be a wonderful way to start practicing slowing down the heart rate. And you'll start to see something very fascinating, that the breath slows down the body or speeds up the body. And when we slow down the body, we start to see two very fascinating things. The mind slows down as well. The thoughts have more spaciousness in between them. The thoughts are quieter often. And our perception of time starts to change as well. Our time slows down. Our perception of time it becomes more spacious. Each moment becomes more spacious. So through the practice of down-regulating breath work, we are able to rest and digest. We can rejuvenate the body. After we eat, if we practice this breath work, it'll aid our body in being able to dedicate resources to rebuilding and regenerating the tissues, to digesting the food that we've just eaten, and to process memories, to process any challenges that have happened through the day. So digesting in every sense of the world, digesting reality of how we take in reality, but also digesting our food, so our experiences and our food. So a few examples of down-regulating breath work, and I'll definitely add a few. I'll add each of these practices within the folder. But one is it's called a square breath, and it's you inhale for 5 seconds, hold at the top for 5 seconds, exhale for 5 seconds, hold at the bottom. So it ends up looking like a square. You can do this for 5 seconds, you can do it for 4 seconds. You can feel what suits your body. If you're seeing that you have to gasp for air, then do less time. If you're seeing that you can hold your breath longer and it feels comfortable, then you can add more time. But the purpose of this is to slow down the body and slow down the mind. So if we're seeing that the sympathetic nervous system is actually being activated because our body's like, oh, I gotta breathe, then we see that we're holding for too long. So take it a little bit easier. So we'll just do 2 rounds of this, and we'll do 4 seconds. So take a deep inhale for 3, 2, 1. Hold at the top for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep inhale. And exhale. Already, what are we feeling? Are we able to feel more? I can already feel calmness over my own body, a cooling down. So if I'm really hot or heated, it's the middle of the day, I need to cool down, I can slow my breath down. The next practice that I'll show you is Anulom Vilom or Nadi Shodhana. It's called both of them. It's alternate nostril breathing. So basically we take our thumb and our middle finger, or you can take your last two fingers. So it's traditionally practiced in a way that your first and second finger pull in, and then we have almost two fingers here, even though we have three fingers, but they're acting as two. So we plug the left nostril, and we inhale through our right. So let's say we inhale for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. You hold, close the right nostril, exhale at the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale through the left. Hold, close left, open right, exhale. Inhale, same nostril. Hold, alternate, exhale. So we inhale left, exhale right. Inhale right, exhale left. It's like making an A or an upside down V. Feels so nice. Usually when you do down-regulating breath work, it feels wonderful. It's almost like stars come out and you start to see the magic of the world and everything slows down and you're able to perceive this beautiful connectedness. And we start to tippy-toe into the state of non-duality, which is this connectedness with everything, losing a sense of self. And down-regulating breath work is a wonderful practice to start seeing how our breath is connected to our nervous system. We see that there are many practices that we put our bodies under stress and then work with the breath to allow the body to receive the benefits of the stressful situation without responding in panic. One example of that is Wim Hof, the Iceman, putting yourself in an ice bath, a very, very cold place, which is an extreme for your body. And then learning to regulate the breath in the extreme condition can help you in other situations in your life when you're under stress, learn how to regulate your breath. That's the practice of asana within yoga, the movement practice of yoga, is we're practicing regulating our breath when we're in challenging physical situations or stressful situations for the body. So that when we go out in the world and we experience stressful situations, we already have practice regulating the breath. It doesn't always translate one-to-one, but that's the practice, is to be able to recognize stress coming in and to regulate that in a way that is actually not damaging for the body, but we can receive it and digest it instead of holding on to it. The sympathetic nervous system holds on. The parasympathetic lets go. So that's the idea. The breath is a powerful tool. If we're not using it, we're missing out on this incredible gateway to an entire world of our body. And again, if we're not using our breath, we're living on the surface of the water. And when it's a sunny day and the waves are calm, we feel great. And then when it's a rainy day and there's crazy storms, we're getting thrown around. And so either way, we're dependent on the outside world for our experience within. But if we actually just go 10 meters below the surface of the water, there's still sunny days and there's stormy days, but we're not affected by it. We're below it. And that's the idea. When we start to use our breath to regulate what comes in, we start to see that we're less affected by the content of what's happening outside of us. That's a powerful tool. There are many traditions and practices, and in yoga classes we say it all the time, like you can choose your own reality, or like you get to choose when you're happy, or whatever. And I always hated when people said that because I was like, that's bullshit. Like I can't choose when I'm happy. If I could, I would be happy all the time. And the idea is with the cultivation of these tools, we have the ability to start influencing how we perceive the world. So yes, that may not mean that we're happy all the time, but it means that we start to have more of a say on what comes into us and what we're receiving and how we're responding, which in turn affects our external world. When I'm more calm in my life, I have less conflict. Even when someone comes up to me and starts to tries to start a conflict, and I don't respond with fire, the fire goes out. So we see that ultimately when we practice these tools and when we start to really get a hold and a grasp on how our breath works and how to utilize the breath as a tool to change our reality, then we really do have a powerful influence on life. Life is a dance. Life isn't being done to us, it's living itself through us. So let's work with life. Let's develop ourselves in a way that we can receive life in the most beautiful and expansive way instead of in a resisting and frustrating way. So those are our two ideas of breathwork, and using breathwork to shift our perspective on life, upregulating and downregulating our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest, and our sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight, get out of there. There's value to both. When we want to rejuvenate and replenish the house, which is most of the time because thankfully we're not in very much danger in our modern world, we want our parasympathetic nervous system to kick in. And we can do that by doing down-regulating breath work. When we need to get out of somewhere and we're really in danger, our sympathetic nervous system is wonderful. It gets us out of there. When we want to pull up trauma from the past that's stored in our body and our mind, we can activate the sympathetic nervous system intentionally in a safe and contained environment to be able to release those energy through screaming, through moving, through dance, all of these different things, just through the breath, through sound. So there's value to all of this, and there are important times for each of these pieces to turn on and come online. The value of using our breath is to be able to start to regulate consciously what happens instead of being subject to whatever weather is happening today. So I'll add some breathwork practices here and just start to see, they'll each be 10-minute practices, how epic 10 minutes is. It really changes your perception for at least a few hours. It actually can be quite incredible how influential a 10-minute breathwork practice is, a 5-minute breathwork practice is, a 2-minute breathwork practice is. 5 deep breaths can change your entire life like that. So having said that, we'll do 3 ohms, we'll do 2 deep exhales, and just start to even see in these 2 exhales what happens to your body and your mind, how you just quickly enter a different state. It's actually quite miraculous. So let's take a deep inhale. Inside out. Deep in. Let's take 3 ohms together. Deep inhale. Noticing the changes in our body, in our mind, in our perception. Just noticing. Thank you for listening. May your breath guide you, and may you enjoy your journey of exploring the breath, exploring the effects of the breath on our body. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Enjoy your practices this week.